Do you like to discover and support bright future founders? And I mean founders who are channeling all of their brilliance into building solutions that make us kinder, more abundant, and healthier human beings. Well, I definitely hope that your answer is yes. And if it is, then I think you're really going to enjoy this interview series called Bright Future Founders. My name is Carly, and this is the Matutine channel, where I'm doing something a little bit different, bringing together idealistic and disruptive minds so that we can better understand and thrive in an age of disruptive change. Why? So that we can reimagine and therefore empower the brightest future possible for ourselves and our communities. Are you interested in this type of content? Great, I hope you are. Please do subscribe to the channel now. It definitely helps us to grow, and that way you won't miss any of the new content. Second, please leave comments below on what you like and what you would like to see more of. And third, definitely share with friends and colleagues as you see fit. Okay, all of the links on me, guests, and the show are below. Podcast links will be coming soon if you don't see them now. And without any further ado, let's meet some bright future founders.
In corporate life, we're taught not to have this shiny facade that, we're always perfect, we don't make mistakes, because if you make mistakes, you get fired. And I think there's also a lot in really understanding that making mistakes and learning from them are the steps towards success. So if you're not making mistakes, that probably means you're not going in somewhere that's uncomfortable. So something where you feel, wow, what happens if I make a mistake, or that's really, really scary, that's probably the area you should be going to. And this is something that's came to me really later in life, really, is that we should be chasing those things that make us uncomfortable. That's where our opportunity is. Create new possibilities that are not driven by what's happened in our past. We're not constrained by our past. So Mike Smith, I'm the founder and CEO of Hiring Stage.
I love what you're talking about, not being defined by your past.
Yes.
Generally, right? Like just as more of a life philosophy, but also how that is so important to disrupting the hiring process, to the work that you're doing in general too. This idea that
Yes.
to hire a finance person that's been in the financial industry for 20 years and that's the person that's right for the role, but you want to be innovative and coming up with new solutions. And so that might not be the best. The person that historically did it might not be the best person to actually put.
Correct. Yeah, I think there's history has shown that just because you've spent 20 years, I don't know, let's pick something different, in accounts receivable, doesn't necessarily mean that you're really, really good at accounts receivable. It just means you may do a basic job. So I think, but perhaps the person who worked in sales or accounts receivable or operations, perhaps what they're really, really good at is maybe building teams. So that ability of building teams, like being able to pick out strong people and bring a team together and motivate them, that skill, even though you may have learned it in a sales context, could just as easily be transferred into a marketing context or a product context or a operations context or even in HR. And so it's really understanding this unique value. So I'll give you an example. I've held lots of roles in Australia, in the UK, in US, in a consulting firm, building teams, designing products, rolling products out. But I discovered when I really looked inside and I did my own evaluation of what are those big problems that I solve and what I'm really passionate about doing, I really realized that the thing that was a constant thread through all that I did and would really float my boat, and was something that I'd always do for free, was helping organizations or teams that were failing in some way. Perhaps a product launch that hadn't gone well, a technology project that was failing, a reorganization that wasn't going well, and creating psychological safety with the group and helping the group really understand what the issues were, and in facilitated meetings and discussions, work out a plan to get back on track. And I realized that I was really, really good at that. I called it like management of change, high level program management. When I look back on my career and my resume, I never had a job called that. I never had a job called that. You wouldn't see it in my resume. But the thing that I think I add the most value to organizations, you couldn't read in my resume. So I think this is something that I discovered for myself, which is why I started off in a consulting practice around that. And then that's what I'm building into hiring stage is how do we extract that key value.
Excellent. Great. So let's go ahead and start then with the most exciting part for me always is what is the why? Why are you doing this? What brought it about? Why is this something that needs to be created?
Well, it's interesting. I was doing I started a networking group. I called it Experienced Professionals. And it was focused on people with deep experience, who sometimes struggle to find the next gig. Sometimes spend like half their week prospecting for the next gig, and had trouble connecting with companies, yet had amazingly deep skills. At the same time, for my consulting business, I was prospecting with startups in New York, looking for consulting opportunities. And, as I got to understand the startup world more, one of the things I realized is that many startups fail. So my idea is to help particularly disruptive new companies greatly increase their chances of success by connecting them with deeply experienced professionals in sales, process, marketing, operations, IT, HR, and thereby help experienced people better find their next role and also increase the chance that disruptive companies will actually succeed. And I think it's a real win-win situation. And that's really what hiring stage is about.
Wonderful. Great. What is the big vision of hiring stage? Where would you like to see it go?
The largest aspect of this is I want to disrupt hiring. I think the hiring process is broken. That's the way we connect talent to organizations that need it. At the same time, I can also see that there are companies out there, early stage companies, many startup companies that have really got amazingly disruptive ideas to improve aspects of, deal with problems in healthcare, climate, education, institutional decision making. So many of them fail. So where I want to start is to connect deeply experienced professionals to early stage companies to help these disruptive new companies to double or triple their chances of success and thereby solve some of our big problems. But while I'm doing it, I'm actually I'm using a new way of connecting talent to companies. So that's also what I want to do. And I think in this area here, I think once I work this out, I think this process I'm using should become the new way of hiring.
I love that. We talked, I know, before when we were having a conversation, just how the current system just doesn't speak to the needs of how it doesn't speak to our current hiring demands and how teams work. And if you could just speak a little bit more about what you see that looking like, or how you think people should be matched up. Where the current system is failing.
So here's the current system is failing because it revolves around companies and organizations creating a thing called a job description, right? And then in some way, candidates come and they put a resume together. So my hypothesis is a job description is really just an expression of the underlying problem the company's trying to solve. So an example might be, I think I need a chief marketing officer. So what do we do? Description for chief marketing officer, which these days is full of buzzwords and titles which are not really standardized. But in a lot of ways, it doesn't really express the underlying problem you're trying to solve, which may be lead generation, it may be teams aren't working very well, it may be we're not converting sales. What's the underlying problem? So instead of matching, I think I need a CMO to I think I am a CMO, because the people who think they're CMOs often rewrite and tailor their resume to make it look like the job description. So the matching we get is really, really bad. Mm-hmm. So what I want to do is decode this and say, instead of posting CMO, the company would enter the problem they're trying to solve, And on the professional side, I encourage them to keep a profile on the system, and I decode from them what the unique value proposition is. So I'll challenge it. Two questions.
Sure.
Two questions I get everybody to ask themselves to really help them in a pivot or where they should focus with their social media outreach, with their content, with their next job, finding the next client is one, what big problems have you found you solve at organizations? What is that? And second question is, what is that thing that you found you do within organizations that gives you so much reward, that sort of drives your passion that you'd almost do this for free? I get people to answer those two questions and then bring those two things together. And that is the sweet spot you should focus on. That's your unique value proposition. That's what you should go for. And I've been working with professionals around this, and it's amazing what it does in terms of honing in on what their next thing is. So I'm actually building this into my platform, this idea.
That's great. And do you find that people can answer those questions?
The first thing you get is, wow, no one's asked me that before.
Right.
Most people have asked me maybe what I'm good at,
Right.
which is a different way of saying what problems you solve. Most people ask you, well, tell me what you've done. So I match company problem I have to company problems I solve, and matching that. I've been doing it manually, and the results with the companies I've worked with so far, they've said, wow, this is actually a much better way of matching. So I'm designing algorithms to do this at scale.
That's incredible. I just think it's so important. As a creative that's never fit into a box, and I know I'm not alone in that category, that it's very frustrating the way that current applicant tracking systems work, and very limited.
They are, and I think that's right. And particularly, I think the resume does such a really bad job. It's a chronological list of jobs you've had. And it often does a poor job of communicating what your unique value is.
Mm-hmm.
But particularly Carly, when you're trying to pivot, perhaps the area that you're previously in is decreasing or it doesn't drive your passion, so you want to pivot to something else. Resumes do a really bad job of communicating what your underlying value is, which is the underlying value is what can transfer to a different type of role. And that's why this way of matching, I think, is going to be a much better way of really matching the value I represent to the value I could bring to an organization.
Great. So tell me a little bit more about what iteration you're in, where you are, so what the manual, what services you offer currently, and then when it comes to the tech, kind of what stage you're in.
Right. So what we're doing is we just have a basic set of tech deployed at the moment, which can capture requests from companies and capture a background, a profile of professionals. And so what we're doing now is working with companies to really understand what issues they're having, help them understand what problems they're having, and we're connecting them to professionals that we know through our various networks. I'm connected with many networks, particularly recruiter networks, but also other professional networks that we can really dive into a very specific individual. So we're doing that manually. I'm working over a team of six of us who are working on this at the moment and making those matches. At the same time, we're designing the algorithm. So a lot of ways, me and the team, we are the algorithm at the moment.
Right.
And, we're working that. And I actually think this is really, really important, because I think one of the reasons why startups fail is they often go straight to designing the end product and the tech first without really understanding the business problem they're trying to solve and working out the underlying business process. And that's what I'm really doing here. Definitely.
Great. And so if you can just tell us a little bit, for anybody who is interested in this space, following your thought leadership in the disruption of hiring generally and how it's evolving, how it needs to evolve, and then supporting the business, how can we help? What are you looking for?
Well, I'm looking for organizations that want to try out this model. So because the experience has been really, really good. For example, I was working with a company that initially came to me, early stage company, that said, look, to grow our sales, we want to, can you go and find commission-based salespeople for us? So that was the ask. That was the old job description way. So I decoded that, and I said, well, okay, and this is actually fairly simple, but okay, tell me why you think you need commission-based salespeople. And as it turned out, the team was actually quite good at closing, but their lead generation was poor. So they're just not getting enough leads. So what I did is, instead of pointing them to commission-based salespeople, which I think would not have worked, instead I found a professional who solves that problem of fixing a consistent lead generation process, and I matched them together. And the founder said, wow, this is amazing. You didn't give me what I asked for. You actually gave me what I needed. And I think this is what this is all about. So I'm looking for organizations that really want to try this approach, and we'll work with them. Also, if you're a professional, particularly a freelancer, if you're looking for shorter term engagements, but also longer term gigs, reach out to me through hiring stage. We can have a conversation and collect a profile, and then you'll be available to be matched to organizations that we find.
Great.
And also realize that I can create new possibilities in my personal life, in professional life, business life. And really the only barrier to that is to just take action every day towards that, and just be determined and just don't stop. And that's really something I've learned, is that the key to success is more about deciding to do it and to chase it every day. Pivot as you need to. Don't do stupid. Don't repeat the same mistake and expect a different result. We'll actually learn from that, but keep going. And you can create any possibility that you want. You can, and you can chase that.